So this is something I've always wanted to speak about on a grander scale, more than just to my friends and my fellow film enthusiasts, but to me personally, the introduction sequence to 28 Weeks Later is quite frankly a masterpiece. Lasting around only 10 minutes, it really does manage to capture what true horror is in every sense of the word. The movie begins with the assumed to be protagonist Dom, played terrifically, mind you, by Robert Carlyle, conversing with his wife Alice as to what they should have for dinner. The camera work here does a terrific job at creating isolation and dread in each shot. It's dark, it's quiet, and it's claustrophobic.
You alright, sweetheart?
I'm fine.
Don assumes the role of the emotional rock Alice desperately needs in the dire times that they're facing. Their two children may not be with them, but they are safe elsewhere, far from harm's way. He tells her how beautiful she is, and they share a brief, intimate kiss before being interrupted.
Not interrupting, am I?
The homeowner, an old lady named Sally, expresses excitement about a small box of sweets she's found, looking forward to an after-dinner treat. Despite the hardship or threat that these people are hiding from, it's not been enough to completely erode the morale of some of the members of the group. It's a humanising touch that adds realism and relatability to the film. A transition occurs, and we see the people who have taken refuge under this roof sitting at a dinner table, and that morale has indeed started to erode. One of them has been gone for 5 days, and despite that lengthy amount of time, Karen, the missing person's partner, still has faith he will return, going as far to save him a plate of food. She is given quite a harsh reality check by another person at the table, Jacob.
Here we go again.
Jacob, no.
Let me tell you something, sweetheart. It's been 5 days since your boyfriend ran out on us. If he's still breathing, which I doubt, it won't be the pasta he's interested in.
Jacob!
It'll be your fucking neck!
Don't say that!
Out of order, Jacob.
Why? We all know it's true. The sooner she faces it, the better. There are no survivors. It's just us in here and them out there.
We hear loud thuds. Someone is banging on the door. This is the first taste of the music that plays throughout, music that makes one's heart skip a beat. All are distressed and unsure what to do. The person outside the door reveals himself to be a child, scared, screaming, and pleading to be let in. Don is hesitant to help him. Trying to process the situation, he makes a very valid point that they don't know who's out there, but Alice is adamant about saving the child.
It's a boy.
Wait. Don't know who's out there.
Don, it's a kid!
They open the door and let him in, hastily boarding the barricaded door back up. This 5-second exchange showing how they both acted in this situation is what ultimately separates Don and Alice. Alice's first instinct is to help another person in need, while Don weighs up the dangers of letting someone into their safe haven. It could be viewed as logical or cold-blooded. It's a lone, helpless child outside, that's true, but who knows what their screaming and banging on the door has attracted. It's not long before we find out. As the group questions the boy about where he came from and how he got here, Karen makes the mistake of removing a sheet from a window to get a view of the outside world. This careless decision will prove disastrous and fatal, as she becomes the film's first casualty of the rage virus that has plunged the country into chaos. Karen is bitten, and within seconds she is infected. Her eyes go blood red and she starts vomiting gouts of blood as she tries to tear Jacob apart. In an act of courage, or mercy, or desperation, Don kills Karen by beating her head in with a crowbar. He orders the rest of the group to get upstairs as he tries to buy them some time to flee. The film has been building to this explosion of mayhem and terror and its rapid shift in gears. The time it takes for someone to turn upon exposure to the rage virus, it's horrifyingly quick. These aren't the slow, shambling zombies of old. These are very aggressive and they are very fast. Paying attention to the sound design here, although it's difficult not to. Every blow to the head of an infected, every hiss or snarl coming from their mouths, they all contribute to the terror. This is where the close-up shots and shaky camera work really come into play. Watching this, it's hard to completely wrap your head around what exactly is unfolding. Quick cuts, dim lighting, close-up images of the characters, this is all intended to create disorientation and dread in the viewer. Don and the others cannot control the situation and get their bearings, and neither can we as viewers. The infected are smashing through the barricades, and the group has been divided. Old married couple Sally and Jeff are torn apart in seconds. Jacob makes a break for the attic, whilst the child, whose name we never learn, runs as fast as he can to an upstairs bedroom. With Alice frantically chasing after him, Don follows. Don locks the bedroom door behind him in a bid to buy them precious seconds of time. The boy is hiding in the closet. Don wants to go into the other room and tries to convince Alice that the child will be safe, but Alice refuses. The infected charge in. Alice pleads for help, and with only seconds to react, Don looks at her, slams the door, sealing the fate of the boy and his beloved wife. This is a good time to break down the scene and discuss whether or not Don is smart, practical, selfish, cowardly, or just plain bad. I personally believe he analysed the situation and under extreme duress, with no time to react, and facing multiple infected without even a basic weapon, he realised that nothing could be done. Should he have died trying to defend Alice and the child? Did he make the right decision? What would you have done? Please let me know in the comments. John Murphy's incredible score starts to fade in, and we as viewers are shocked by this choice. The person we have perhaps assumed to be the central character, the hero, has abandoned his wife to save himself. He's running away. He's running for his life, but he's running away from the person that he loves. As he looks back, husband and wife make eye contact one last time before she is pulled away to a violent, terrible death, or so we assume. Don runs through a beautiful wide open green landscape. It's an interesting reversal of the traditional terror scenario. It's an unspoken rule that you are fair game when it's dark, but safe once the sun comes up. But not here. The infected don't play by the traditional rules. They're running full tilt after Don and they want to rip him to pieces. The shot of Don running like mad as we see a rabid pack of infected coming over the hill in pursuit is incredible. I've always found shots like these, where the danger is hiding in clear sight, to be much more scary and effective as to when the threat is hiding in the shadows waiting to scare its prey, or us as the viewers. Good examples of this is Michael Myers stalking our favourite babysitter Laurie Strode in Halloween. She is simply living her life, doing the most mundane, everyday actions in the middle of the afternoon, while she is stalked. Or Jay, in It Follows, being directly approached by the film's strange, silent threat in broad daylight in crowded places. And in 28 Weeks, we see the same thing, perhaps even more terrifying considering how quick and how many there are. Murphy's score is ramping up at this point, as Don is reunited with Jacob at a boat tied up at a dock on a river. As Jacob frantically tries to untie the rope securing the boat, he leaps off the dock and falls into the water. Don does his best to rescue Jacob, but it's a lost cause. Jacob is pulled underwater and re-emerges as a red-eyed, enraged infected. Jacob! I've heard talk about how Don acts inconsistently throughout the opening sequence of the film, whereas he tries to save Jacob's life but he abandons his wife moments ago. In my opinion, it's not a fair comparison. In the house with Alice and the child, there was no way to maneuver, there was no way to defend them. But in this scene, the boat is slightly away from shore, buying them just a slither of time, but it's still not enough. Jacob still dies, but I just wanted to make this point to say that I personally don't believe it to be a flaw in the writing. As Don pulls the starter and the boat's engine revs, he tries to keep control while trying not to get attacked by the man who was, like him, human and helpless only seconds earlier. As the boat spins out of control, against all odds, Don manages to get Jacob away from the boat and make his escape, with nothing else to say but... The score fades out, and in stunned silence Don, the sole survivor of the frenzied assault on the house, takes one last look back at the window through which he saw Alice, and with that, one of the most terrifying introductions to horror is over. For me personally, the rest of the movie slowly and unfortunately crumbles after that, becoming too action-oriented with little substance. Scenes like this have their fans, but I feel 28 Weeks Later never reaches the same heights as it did in the grueling opening sequence. I always love to show people the first 10 minutes of this film, but I never want to watch anything beyond that. It's not a terrible movie by any stretch, it just loses its foundation in recognisable, if very heightened, human emotions. Immediately following the introduction sequence, the next scene with dialogue is crude, blokey military banter.
Fat guy, jerking off in the toilet.
Oh, bug nuts. Him again. I saw him
I don't
yesterday.
see him. Where is Fester Fucknut?
Oh, your boyfriend?
Yeah, there he is, sticking his hand on the 20th floor.
Yeah, next to the fire exit, man.
Oh, shit. I think he needs a jerk-off extender. Hey, Doyle, you're the expert in hand-to-hand combat. Man-to-man combat. Shut up.
I could do a whole new video as to why I think the rest of the film doesn't hold up, but despite that, I will always be an advocate for the opening sequence of the film. It makes so much sense to me that Danny Boyle, the director of 28 Days Later, had some involvement in creating the first 10 minutes, and that was the only role that he had in the sequel. Released in 2007, receiving positive to average scores, critics stated while 28 Weeks lacked the humanism that made 28 Days a classic, it makes up for it with fantastic atmosphere and a punchy direction. There was talk for a long time about a third film, rumoured to be called 28 Months Later, but for better or worse, the infected are yet to rear their ugly heads again.